All right, it's been a while, so let's see if I still remember how to do this. I unexpectedly quit this YouTube channel about 12 months ago when something happened in one of my businesses that completely derailed my life. It was something I never could have seen coming. It all started in October of last year when I discovered one of my business partners had been lying to me. He'd been hiding the fact that the business was hemorrhaging hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month and had been for a very long time. On top of that, I found he'd been taking money out of the business without my knowledge. The next 7 months were some of the hardest of my entire life as I tried to navigate these feelings of betrayal, of anger, and shame, all the while trying to figure out what actually happened with this business and what, if anything, me and the other partners could do to save it. In the end, unfortunately, it was too far gone. That business collapsed. I had to lay off the entire team of around 20 people. I sued my business partner, and then I filed for bankruptcy. One of the most popular videos on this channel is the story of how I went from $80,000 in debt to a millionaire in only 3 years, but I think it's only fitting to share the other side of the story, to share the battles lost as well as the battles won. Because, the reason I started this channel in the first place is because entrepreneurship has fundamentally transformed my life for the better. It's the vehicle through which I learned how to take responsibility for my outcomes, to harness my potential, and ultimately to improve not just my life, but the life of those closest to me, and thousands, if not millions, of people who've been served by our various businesses over the years. I mean, entrepreneurship is the best personal development program in the world. And for a certain type of person, I believe it is the best way to step into your greatness. But it will not come easy. And often on social media, gurus like me, we paint the picture that it's always rainbows and butterflies, which casts an unrealistic expectation that can make you feel as though you're doing something wrong when things are not working out or they're taking longer than you expect them to. And then you start to wonder if maybe you're not cut out for this game. But the truth is that in the game of business, you're probably going to spend more time losing than you do winning. And the thing that people don't really talk about nearly enough is that the people you look up to, they're only there because they're standing atop a larger pile of failures than you. That's it. Like, the master has failed more often than the novice has even tried, right? Now, I don't want to suggest that I am a master by any means, but I have been around the block a few times now, and I have paid a very expensive tuition at the School of Hard Knocks. I would love for you to get my lessons without the scars, but obviously I can't do that if I'm not willing to show you the scars. So in this video, I'm going to show you some scars. I'm going to share with you a bit of the story of what happened, but more importantly, I'm going to share with you 5 of the most valuable lessons that you can take away from my epic failure to apply not just to your business, but to your life. So let's dive in. All right, so first, you're probably wondering what the hell actually happened. So I want you to imagine that you're a kid, and one day you're out in the garage, you're playing around, and you start playing with the fire extinguisher, and you screw up. You accidentally drop it, it breaks, right? And you're freaking out because you know you weren't supposed to be playing with it, and your dad's gonna be pissed off when he finds out, but you think to yourself, what if you just put it back and don't tell anybody? Maybe you could just replace it before anybody notices, right? No need to upset anybody, you'll fix the problem, no harm, no foul. And so you cover up your mistake, and it buys you a little bit of time. But then something crazy happens, something unfathomable, something nobody could ever have predicted. There's a fire. And so when your dad runs out to grab the extinguisher, it's in that moment everybody has to learn the hard way what you've done. Now, in that story, the problem isn't necessarily the mistake. That certainly doesn't help. But the bigger problem is the cover-up of the problem. Because, in business and in life, there's always a fire. It's not a matter of if there's going to be a fire, just when. And that's what happened here. A mistake was made, but instead of owning it, the person who committed the mistake tried to fix it quietly in the hopes that nobody's going to notice. And I don't think it was done out of malice per se, but out of fear, out of shame, out of pride. These little lies, these seemingly harmless half-truths told with the intention of just buying time to make it right. And this is interesting because it's what psychologists call moral shading. It's the reason hell is paved 1 inch at a time in the good intentions of well-meaning people simply making one bad choice after another. And the crazy part is that when people find themselves in these spirals, they start spending more time and energy covering up the problem than they do in actually trying to solve the problem itself, which just allows the fire more time to grow until finally the thing gets so damn big you can't possibly miss it because now not only is the garage on fire, but so is the entire house. And by that point, there's often not even very much to save anymore. So that, from a very high level, is generally what happened. But again, for the purposes of this video, the details don't really matter. What does matter are some of the lessons I've learned from this experience that I hope can serve you well on your journey. So let's dive into those. Lesson number 1 is that red flags never go down. The most important relationships in life, including business partnerships, they're built on a foundation of trust. And in my experience, once that trust is violated, you almost never get it back. But the thing is that violations of trust are almost always small in the beginning and seemingly inconsequential, so they're just really easy to let slide. Looking back, I can recognize dozens of these little red flags that I either didn't notice or I just chose to ignore. Like 3 years ago, I remember we're sitting in this meeting with our leadership team, and my partner, he bragged to everybody that he never pays for street parking because it's the smarter financial decision. Like if you only get ticketed 3 out of the 4 times, it's going to be cheaper just to get the ticket rather than pay every time. And now the math might check out on that, but it directly violated one of our company's core values, which was integrity in everything. And I should have said something. I should have said something right then and there. I should have set the record straight for the team, but I didn't. I was a coward. And I let it go because I didn't want to create conflict over something that was like so small. It seemed petty, right? And so I told myself it's not a big deal, and I looked the other way. But when you do that, it only makes it easier to ignore the next red flag and the next one and the next one after that. Until one day you look up to discover that all those little red flags have added up to become something quite big. Think of it like this. Every red flag you ignore is feeding a dragon. Now in the beginning, all dragons, they start off small and easy to ignore. Annoying, yes, but they're manageable. I mean, you could end that dragon right then and there the moment you first notice it without bloodshed if you were just brave enough to act. But most of the time, we don't. And here's the thing that you're eventually going to learn the hard way, is that dragons left in the dark, they only ever keep growing until one day they're so big, they won't let you ignore them anymore. Now they're big, and they're powerful, and they're dangerous, and you have no choice to fight it, except now it's got teeth, and it breathes fire, and it's coming to eat you and all the other villagers, and there's no ignoring this thing anymore, and it's only going to end in one way, a bloody battle. And the funny thing is, to kill a dragon when it's small usually doesn't even require very much energy. It requires nothing more than simply having a hard conversation. Truly, like all the growth you could ever want in life is on the other side of a hard conversation. That could be a hard conversation with a friend, an employee, a partner, a loved one, or most important of all, a hard conversation with yourself. Because the truth is, the hardest dragon to face is the one staring back at you in the mirror. All right, lesson number 2 is don't outsource your confidence. Now, in this particular business, I oversaw marketing and investor relations while my partner was president and he led operations and finance. He had years of experience working finance in a Fortune 500 company, and I had scaled several businesses up to that point to 7 and 8 figures. So on paper, it looked like a perfect match. And for a while it was. I mean, we scaled to $100 million in assets under management really quickly. But along the way, there were these occasional little things, like so small and minute, things that just didn't quite add up, or they were inconsistent, or little errors in the reports that I was getting. And whenever I'd point them out, these little things to my partner, he always had this confident, plausible, and reassuring answer. And so I accepted it because he's the expert and my partner, so it's like, why would he lie, right? I think if it had been anyone else in any other context, I probably would have asked harder questions. I might have dug a bit deeper. But instead, I put more trust in his judgment than in my own. Simply put, I outsourced my confidence. And the sad truth is that I did it because on some level, I wanted to. Because here's what nobody tells you about entrepreneurship is that you were probably drawn to starting a business because you hate being told what to do, right? You want to be the one in control of your destiny, or at least in control of your day-to-day schedule. And the price that you pay for this control is that the buck ultimately stops with you. All decisions, one way or another, they got to go through you. And for the most part, you love it. But sometimes you just get tired of making hard decisions with incomplete information, and you want somebody else to make the hard call. And that's one of the ways that partnerships can be great. You can share that load, right? But it can be just so easy to slip into the mindset that I'm just going to stay in my lane and focus on my part. It feels like a relief, but it's a trap because even if you're not the one flying the plane when it goes down, it might not be your fault, but it sure as shit is your problem. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't trust, but you should absolutely have mechanisms in place to verify what you're being told. If you don't, it's just a matter of time until you get taken advantage of. Which takes us to lesson 3. Let's talk about the iceberg that actually sank me. So from October through March, I mean, it felt like I was on a sinking ship. I was bailing water with a coffee mug, barely making a dent. And every time we'd just pour a little bit of water overboard, like 3 more holes would burst and more water would flow in. It's like we cut a check for $500,000 to pay past due taxes that we had been told had already been paid, only to discover, oh, there's another $100,000 owed to vendors from last year that had never been paid. And we're like, it was crazy. It was absolute chaos. And while all this was happening, while we're uncovering all this stuff, the properties themselves were still hemorrhaging money. So eventually, myself and the other partners, we had to make the hard decision to pull the plug and sell the assets. But I mean, talk about picking the worst possible moment to do that. I mean, not only were we at a brutal point in the market cycle for sellers, but buyers, they could sense that there was blood in the water as we were doing like this fire sale. And that's when the train hit me. See, I had personally guaranteed the $40 million worth of debt we had used to acquire these assets. And when the dust settled, it was looking like we'd be coming up tens of millions of dollars short to cover that debt. Tens of millions of dollars that the banks were going to be looking at me personally to pay back. And that, well, that is a very expensive problem. So here's the thing that you got to understand. Debt is leverage, and leverage cuts both ways. It can 10x your upside, but it can just as easily nuke your life if things turn south. So never take on a level of risk that has the power to wipe you out completely, especially not when partners are involved and you don't actually have full control. Now, the mistakes I made with this business would have been game over for most people, but I actually got really lucky that 12 years ago, I had a conversation with my dad that completely saved my ass. So lesson number 4, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Okay, so let's just rewind 12 years ago to when I'm living in a van because I have $80,000 of debt and I got nowhere else to turn. Not long after that, I started my first business, and within about 9 months, I was out of the van, and for the first time in my life, I was making more than minimum wage. I was psyched. I was like, man, life is good. It's all smooth sailing from here. My dad did not agree. He sat me down and he told me something around that time that you never really expect to hear from a parent, but it actually proved outrageously prophetic. He said, Anthony, there's a good chance that someday you're going to have to file bankruptcy. That's actually quite normal in business. But I'm not worried because I know you have the mindset and the ability to figure it out. Just know that if that does ever happen, it's not the end of the world. Just plan for it now and be prepared. Okay, so it's a weird backhanded kind of compliment. Thank you, I think. But that conversation got me thinking, you know, if there's even a 15% chance he's right, what would I do if I really did lose everything? Right? And that question, it led me to an exercise that I got from the Stoic philosophers that shaped how I operate to this day. It's called fear setting. I've done other videos on this concept, which I'll link above, but you effectively just imagine, what would you do if you got the phone call right now confirming the big thing that you feared most would happen, like your family, somebody just is in a car accident, you got a call from the IRS. What is the thing? Imagine that happens right now, and then ask yourself, what would you do next? Who would you call? What would you say? What actions would you take? And then you ask, and then what would I do, right? You just keep asking, and then what would I do? And you do that until, one, the panic starts to fade, and you have a game plan. And what you'll come to realize is like, even if worst case scenario happened right now, I would survive, right? Because the wild thing about living in the 21st century is that failure is almost never fatal, but it can really suck if you're not prepared. And so back then, I spent a couple months doing pretty much the unsexiest thing you can possibly imagine, which is I dove into the world of asset protection and estate planning. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's thanks to the work that we did then that a failure over here in this business doesn't necessarily blow up my entire life. So while this business might have failed, I'm not broke, I'm not destitute, I'm not forced to live on the street and start over from absolute zero. Now, you might hear this and you might feel like, you know, preparing for the worst case scenario right now is a bit premature in your business, but trust me, like the people playing at the highest levels, they aren't just hoping for the best, they're actively planning for the worst. And the time to put the structures into place for when the world falls apart is long before the world ever actually starts falling apart. Now, if you want to understand the structure that I use, then I'll drop a link in the description that you can use to go download a training I did for my private clients called Operation Financial Fortress. But let's go to lesson number 5, which is the hardest move to find. In chess, there's this concept called the hardest move to find. It's not always the most complex move or the most brilliant one. Often it's what we call a quiet move. It's the move that goes against your instincts, and it's either so subtle that it flies under the radar, or it challenges your ego because it forces you to abandon the plan that you've been working towards up to that point. You know, you got to pivot. For me, bankruptcy was that move. For months, I fought tooth and nail to save this dying business. I poured everything, my money, my time, my energy, my soul. And I kept fighting to save this thing even long after it was clear it was beyond saving. Because when you've built your identity around being the person who figures it out and wins at all costs, admitting defeat feels like death. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go. The decision to file bankruptcy, it wasn't just financial, it was deeply personal. It felt like admitting I wasn't good enough, like I'd let down everyone who had ever believed in me. But something I discovered through this process is that the willingness to start over from zero, it can be a superpower. But most people, they stay in a bad situation, bad jobs, bad relationship, bad business, not because they can't leave, but because they're terrified of starting over. They would rather suffer in the familiar than risk the unknown. And the crazy thing is that the real reason many of us do keep holding on isn't actually because we're afraid of failure. It's because we're afraid of what others will say about our failure. We worry so much about what others are going to think that it keeps us locked into situations that don't serve us. And this is why the fear of judgment kills more dreams than the fear of failure ever will. But here's something I found to be true through this whole experience is that the people ahead of you, who you look up to, who have something in life that you desire, they are not judging you for trying and failing because they themselves have been there. I mean, healthy people don't judge you for going to the gym. Successful entrepreneurs don't judge you for taking a risk and starting a business, right? Every successful person that I reached out to over the last year for help or support during this time, they all had the same exact thing to say. They said, "You're not alone. I've been through something similar, and it's one of the best things that ever happened to me." The only people who revel in your defeat are those behind you, because now they believe this gives them a chance to overtake you. But those people were never rooting for you anyways. So why let the fear of their judgment stop you from going for your dreams? I don't know. Something to think about, I guess. So now, let's talk about why I left YouTube and what comes next. So I took a break from this channel about a year ago, but I didn't actually leave YouTube. I think a lot of you probably don't realize, but I do have a side channel called Amplified Impact, where I've been releasing a daily video for like the last 1,000 days straight. And the great thing about that channel is that my team, they just pick a topic around business, life mastery, peak performance. And I sit down and riff. It's very raw. It's very easy to produce. It's a lot of fun. But this channel is something different for me. You know, this is more of an extension of my artistic expression. I put a lot of effort into making each one of these videos as good as I possibly can. I mean, I easily put 10 to 15 hours just scripting these videos. And I honestly just didn't have the time, I didn't have the energy, and I didn't have the heart to put out more videos with everything that was happening over the past year. So I'm sorry for leaving, but I'm grateful to all of you who've reached out to ask, where the hell I went. I mean, I really do appreciate you guys all being here. And by the way, if you do want to stay in touch, you can find me on Instagram at @TheAnthonyVicino. I hang out there every day. I answer all my DMs, so come say hi. But starting now, I am officially back to posting regularly on this channel, so hit subscribe and the like button if you want to see more of these videos hit your feed. But here's one last idea I want you to take away from this video. Life is not a product of your circumstances. It's a product of your perspective. You can view the adversities of life as the thing that's oppressing you and holding you down and keeping you from realizing your dreams, stepping into your greatness. Or you can see that pressure as a privilege and realize that without that pressure, there can be no diamond. So my hope is that you get out there. You forget the haters. You go build something amazing. And when you do inevitably fail, because you will, that's just life, I hope you remember this video. Remember that I'm here failing right alongside you, and that I'm rooting for you. And that'll do it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next video.
That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. You can't tell me shit now.